Hey guys, Bittersteel here, back with another guide for Hearts of Iron 4. Many of you have been requesting more and I know I'm running out of achievements, but we have a few more to go, so let's go. And today we will be taking a look at the Soviet Union and the achievement, the Revolution Triumphant. Now I chose this one, even though it's not particularly hard, because my last playthrough in the New Order, I'll leave a link up there in the corner, left me with a bit of a bad taste. So let's set the record straight and make Russia great again. So we'll play as the Soviet Union with Papa Stalin at the helm, Iron Man mode on, obviously, and historical AI focuses on. You know me by now, I like my predictability. Now if you like these videos, leave a like and consider subscribing, it really helps out the channel a lot. Also hit me up in those comments, hit me with your questions, your suggestions. I try to answer as many of you as I can, and I do read most of the comments. That said, we also have a very nice active Discord community. I'll leave a link to the server in the description below. Check it out. Anyway, enough rambling, on to the video. And this brings us to 1936. Soviet Union, arguably the most powerful country on Earth time. So let's get going. Focuses, easy enough. We will start with the Stalin Constitution. Papa Stalin needs to write himself a new constitution. Research. We have 3 slots, not great, not terrible. First slot, armor. We will be getting the BT7, ranking up our light armor. Second slot, basic machine tools. And the third slot, construction. Moving forward, I will not be pointing out exactly what to do, but I do recommend keeping the industry up to date. Same for the research, so your engineering, and focusing on improving your tanks and improving your infantry equipment. We will not be going air. If you want to go air, that's fine. There's 2 philosophies, air Russia, no air Russia. My heart is with tanks in this one, so I will not be going for the air. And if you're wondering what support companies are good, well, for your infantry, you'll want some engineer companies along with support artillery. And for your tanks, you want to equip them with engineer companies, maintenance companies, logistics companies, and very important, signal companies. So that is what you are going to be aiming for. Don't worry, it's not that hard. Soviet Union is powerful. Right then, production. Guns. We'll need a lot of guns. Need a bit of support artillery. We won't need fighters. We won't need strat bombers. If you want to build fighters, you can build fighters. I prefer to build a few more tanks. 3 unmotorized should be fine. And I'll start out with 15 on light tanks and a few on towed artillery. Towed AA. So this is what you'll end up with production-wise. We leave the infantry equipment as is. We will have a very large deficit that we need to work on. We can switch these around later on. If we see equipment stockpiles piling up or large shortages showing up, then we'll add some towed anti-air, some support equipment, some towed artillery, which is great for your infantry. Motorized, because obviously we'll need some trucks to go with the tanks, and the bulk of our production will go into light tanks. Yes, I know light tanks aren't great, but this is single player, we're fighting the AI, light tanks will do just fine. Besides, we can make a lot of them really early on. As far as naval production is concerned, you can do with this what you want, pretty much. Finish it off, don't finish it off, does not really matter. I just tend to get rid of the submarines and let the rest of the ships build, putting them in the Baltic fleet. Put them in the Black Sea fleet, they're kind of lost. Well, not lost, just stuck there. Now for construction. Since we start out on civilian economy, most of our construction is going to be slow. So I'll start off with a bit of infrastructure in a few good provinces that have a lot of steel. We will be needing a great deal of steel. So one good place to build is Magnitogorsk in the southern tip of the Urals. And up here, Onega, next to Finland. We can build up a little bit of infrastructure there as well. Now these usually don't finish by the time we ramp up our economy laws, but it's better than wasting the construction on civies that will be built really slowly. And we'll follow that up with a bunch of civilian factories in our high development provinces. So 80%, 70%. Just look around, see what has the highest development and build there. And that brings us finally to the military. Soviet Union starts out with 138 divisions. This is quite the formidable force, so we need to organize this a little. We'll take out the light tank divisions, that's 11 divisions. and they can be commanded by Georgy Zhukov. Then we'll take out the basic infantry divisions. That should be 73 of them. Leaves us with some chaff, really. There's still the Mountaineers, 13 of them. Take them out as well. Then we have the one motorized division here. I either delete it or turn it into a tank division and assign it to Zhukov. A bunch of cav here. I tend to just delete the cavalry. They're pointless. And that leaves us with 18 of these, I have no idea how to pronounce this, but pretty bad infantry divisions. So we'll leave those for now. Let's organize the infantry into as many armies as we can. Nice, 24 units each. So the infantry organized, that leaves us with 3 full armies, 24 divisions each, straight up infantry. This template, not terrible, but we'll change it later on a little bit. And 14 of these mountaineers with 1 infantry division left. So we'll take 10 of these NKVD units, add them to that army, brings these guys up to 24 as well. The NKVD divisions can be changed into basic infantry, and what's left can be deleted as well, so that should be 8 of these NKVD divisions. Don't need them. The infantry, assign them to a field marshal. Voroshilov is pretty good, defensively oriented. The infantry will not be doing any attacking. They are just there to make a nice meat wall. And just assign them with some generals. They don't have to be the best generals. Anything will do, really. Now to assign these armies. Nothing fancy here. I'll send one army to the south to cover the border with Romania, and at least 3 armies in the north to cover the Polish border. These units can get into position and exercise. The armor divisions can also go onto the Polish border. I like to put them here near Minsk and Baranovice. That way they can make a nice spearhead move towards Grodno and cut off this part. Once we decide we want Poland. Tanks can exercise as well. We are making a lot of light tanks anyway. Alright, that leaves us with the Air Force. We will not be building anything fresh, but what we have we can use, so just park them on Kiev or near Kiev, and we'll use them later on. That's the initial setup done, so we can get going. And as you can see, we have massive shortages of infantry equipment. We are also short some light tanks. Doesn't matter. Our army is strong enough even with those deficits, and we'll fix those later on. Oh, there we go. First focus done. You'll get this event regarding Turkey. They will seize the Bosporus. Fine, we will mobilize the armed forces. Gives us a little bit of war support. And Turkey, on historical, will always back down after this. So it should be fine. Germany remilitarizes. That's also fine. And we finish the Stalin Constitution. Now keep the game paused. We have some things to do. First order of business, we will justify on Yugoslavia. Or any state, really. Don't worry about the French guarantee. That one will go away by the time we are ready to fight. Doesn't matter, don't worry about it. Next up, we will justify on Poland. Then we go back to Yugoslavia, cancel the justification, and justify again there. Now these 2 justifications should finish within 10 days of each other. By the time our justification on Yugoslavia finishes, France will be about halfway into their focus where they abandon their guarantees in the Balkans. So we should have free reign in the Balkans by then. Also, yes, I do realize that world tension is getting quite high. Don't worry about it. It will keep dropping a little bit over time. It should not spike above 15% by the time we are ready. There shouldn't be any guarantees to worry about. Next step here, we will be going for positive heroism. Why? Well, just look at the military high command we will get in Konstantin Rokossovsky. Armor genius, 15% attack, 15% defense for our armor. There is nothing that is quite as powerful. And since we will be playing Tank Russia, it will be stupid not to. Also, we've gathered up a bit of command power. That means we can assign a field marshal to Zhukov as well. Now, I would pick Tukhachevsky, but let's just say Tukhachevsky is about to have a really bad time sometime later this year. So let's pick someone else. We can promote Konstantin Rokossovsky. He also has great stats, and he's a brilliant strategist, making him an excellent pick for an offensive field marshal. And there we go, Turkey compromises, like I said. Now it is March of 36, so it shouldn't take too long for Spain to, you know, do its thing. And what I like to do, it's not required, but I like to do it, is split off about 6 of these Mountaineer divisions, because with this amount of divisions we can send 6 volunteers, split them off into their own little army, and give them a general. Any general will do, really. Maybe pick somebody who gets good experience. We'll park this guy somewhere so we have him ready to go and intervene in the Spanish Civil War. Now, we won't be in Spain for long, so I don't think we'll be able to really save the Republicans, but, you know, free army experience. Now, for industry path. Concentrated versus dispersed. I'll leave this one up to you. In the end, for single player, it's such a narrow difference that it doesn't really matter. My preference is dispersed simply because of the efficiency retention, so you have a little bit more efficiency every time you switch your production around. Alright, we finished positive heroism. Now it's time to move over all the way to the right and gut our military. Yes, the Great Purge must be done. It will hurt us a lot, but the sooner we get rid of that, the better. And now several of these purge events will pop up, and I'll tell you which ones to pick. Oh, we're also at 100 command power, so might as well improve our generals and field marshals. Voroshilov will be purely defense focused, so we'll get him unyielding defender and defensive doctrine later on. Rokossovsky will be purely offense oriented, so he can have aggressive assaulter, offensive doctrine, and organization first. Later on, maybe logistics wizard if he gets the experience for it. Alright, with those light tanks researched, it's time to switch over and work on that engineering. And doctrines! I will be going mobile warfare here. Yes, I know that stereotypically Russia will be mass assault and throwing wave after wave of their own soldiers at the enemy machine guns. Super inefficient and does not make good use of Russia's strength. In this case, its strength is its massive industry and its armor. And what better way do you make use of its armor than by going mobile warfare? Also, switch out to the new and improved light tanks. And for now, I'll add a few more factories to this. Any new factories can go into light tank production. We'll need quite a few of these for what we're about to do later. The rest of our equipment will fix itself eventually. You'll see, don't worry about it.
20 minutes later.
Finally, 150 political power. Once again, time to finally ramp it up to the best economy. Well, second best, but I'll take it. War economy. Let's look at our construction. I could finish these two in Magnitogorsk and Onega. That finishes off the infrastructure, and we'll follow those up with a bunch of civilian factories. We should be good in terms of production anyway. Don't need mills right away. We can wait until, I'd say, late 37 to switch over to military production. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not recruiting more divisions, it's mostly because, well, we already have a great deal of divisions available, and quite a large deficit of infantry equipment. I could train some tank divisions, but even those require a little bit of infantry equipment still. Oh, there we go. Spain is pain. Let's immediately take advantage of that and send our volunteers. We can send 6. I split off 6 to send, and some air volunteers because why not? And we'll send those over. And of course the Republicans agree. Don't forget you need to manually send your birds over. 215. Don't forget about that. Your infantry will arrive in a bit. Should get you some experience. The first of the events regarding the Great Purge. We have several options to make our nation bleed, and we have to choose wisely. First option gets rid of Kalinin. He's pretty good. 15% stability is nice. I wouldn't get rid of him. Second option, Khrushchev. What use do we have for a communist revolutionary? We're already communist, so he is the one to go. The other two options are pay 75 political power. I don't want to do that. And the last one is purge no one, and that will lead to trouble down the line. So goodbye, Nikita Khrushchev. Our divisions have arrived. I'll slow it down just a little bit to play them. I wouldn't say efficiently, but at least do something with them. Now, as far as the Spanish shenanigans are concerned, don't worry about it too much. Your divisions are here for a very short time. They won't make a massive impact on the outcome. It would be nice if we could get the Republicans to win. That, however, is incredibly unlikely due to the, well, their incompetence and the fact that we don't really have any spare guns to send them. No, we are just here for army experience. So I just park them somewhere on the front line, make some offensives whenever I can. Whenever I find a province that doesn't have this modifier, then we can have some fun there. But the AI is pretty incompetent in removing it in a way that makes sense. So don't count on it. But while the units are here, they will try and help out the Republicans as best they can. And now that the army XP is starting to trickle in, we can make some changes to our divisions. We use the first 5 army experience on the armored units. These are 18 combat width. Eventually we want to bump these up to 40 combat width, the optimal offensive template, but let's think in small steps. We'll start by getting them up to 20 combat width. Not great, but at least it will make them fill the full combat width. There we go. And we'll need quite a few tanks to fill those needs. Doesn't matter, our economy can take the hit. And our second bit of army XP can be used on the infantry. They as well are stuck at 18 combat width, not optimal, so we'll add 1 infantry battalion, bringing them up to 20 combat width. This will make them a very good defensive template, a meat wall if you will. Though eventually we do want to add on engineer companies as well and support anti-air. But small steps, small steps. There we go, the secret trial of the generals. This is where we choose just how we want to dismember our armed forces. First option gets rid of Tukhachevsky. While he is a good theorist for mass assault, he's not great. Yes, he's an excellent field marshal, but we can always get new field marshals. The second option gets rid of Rokossovsky, who is not only a really good general, he is also an excellent member of the military high command, boosting our armor to insane amounts. So we will not be getting rid of Rokossovsky. The final option, once again, will lead to trouble down the line, so bye-bye Tukhachevsky. Now, with the army experience flowing in freely, yes, we could make some more changes to our divisions and add on those things like engineer companies. But as you can see here, we need a lot more equipment for that. So these are changes we will make at a later date. The army is fine as is for what we're about to do in the immediate future, so this can wait. What we can do, however, is go into these cavalry divisions and give them military police and maybe a little bit more cav. These will be our garrison templates, and well, essentially you want to make this as large as you possibly can due to the way it's calculated in terms of your support equipment. Oh, don't forget, occupied territories, switch these over to cavalry divisions. Also prefer local police force to the civilian administration. And while we're purging, might as well keep going. We're now hitting the NKVD and others. So, again, final option, don't do this. This will just lead to trouble. That leads us to these first 2 options. The first one gets rid of our Prince of Terror. He could be useful, though he's not that great. The second option gets rid of some Air Force and Navy guys, not that impressive, but it does get rid of Alexander Vasilyevsky, who is decent army regrouping expert. So I would suggest Army and Air Force have been getting off easily so far. We will just give up the Prince of Terror. Alright, finished the first rank of Mobile Warfare. Could just keep going, but we only have the 3 slots and we have some infantry equipment to improve as well, and the economy needs improvement. And with that, we finish the Great Purge. Oh, how our country bleeds. Just look at those modifiers. Not great. We want to get rid of this as soon as possible, since, well, we do have some foreign expeditions that we would like to undertake. And to do that, we have to rush down to this focus. Lessons of War. 2 options are available. We go either NKVD Primacy, which will give us an extra spy and a 5% reinforcement rate down the line. The other option is the Rehabilitated Military, which gives us 10% recovery and 2% reinforcement, as well as a bonus to Land Doctrine. I leave the choice to you. Personally, I think Rehabilitated Military wins out slightly over that 5% reinforce rate. The spy is pretty good, but I don't think we'll need to focus on spies that much. also have another 150 political power. And curious as this may sound, but it's actually optimal for the Soviet Union to engage in free trade at this point. Yes, it's absurd, but it's just that good. We will trade away so many of our resources and still have quite a few left that we will just be drowning in civilian factories that we can then use to crank out military ones. Speaking of military factories, we are almost done with that run of cities. It's late 36, though don't really need that many mills just yet, so I'll add a few more cities. Meanwhile, in Spain, I've not been doing all that much, just making some offensives wherever I can. Like I said, the AI is pretty bad at removing those unplanned offensive modifiers, so don't worry about it, we're just here for the XP.
A few moments later.
Oh, and of course you can rely on the AI to allow you to get encircled every single time. Ay. I'll see if I can salvage those mountaineers, but don't count on it. So unlike me, pay attention when you're dabbling here. You might end up disappointed. Yeah, it's a German armor. Unfortunate, these guys are probably doomed. Rip. I just lost 3 mountaineer divisions and a bunch of infantry equipment. Oh well. Can't win every time. Like I said, it's the AI is so terrible at removing those unplanned offensive modifiers and, you know, just manning the line. I just don't like involving myself in the Spanish Civil War. Fortunately, we don't have to for much longer. We finished our first justification on Yugoslavia, but they are still guaranteed by France. Now, if we check France, they are doing the focus by time. When they finish this focus, they will cancel their guarantee on Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia. Not the one on Romania, but that's irrelevant. So we just leave this war goal to sit here until the French finish that focus. We have the time. Yeah, that's the final nail in the coffin for the Republicans, probably. Could have done a lot more if I sent tanks instead, but we have use for those tanks. Like I said, we were just here for the army XP, and I'd say that worked out very nicely.
Later.
And there you go, March 31st, 1937. The French have withdrawn their guarantee from Yugoslavia and our war goal is still valid. Great. This means we can move on to the next stage of our operation. We will declare war on Yugoslavia. This will call in Czechoslovakia and Romania for free. France is still guaranteeing Romania, but because of the way they are pulled in, the French will not get involved. Excellent. Now, do note, keep the game paused while you're doing this. Otherwise, world tension might spike over 25% and the allies might drop a guarantee down in there somewhere. So just do it while paused. There. That will bring Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia and Romania against us. Now we do the same for Poland. That's just little old Poland. Perfect. Also, our volunteers are on their way back home. Would have been 6 if I hadn't ruined it, but it's 3. Oh well. Better than nothing. Now, in testing this next step, I've found that it's very easy to take out Poland and from there hop into Czechoslovakia, but if world tension spikes to 60%, Romania is going to join the Allies. That's not what we want, really. So I'll try a different approach. Going to delete these front lines for a bit, let time pass by. There, everybody's in this. This will make for a nice full front line here. And I will pull my armor away and we'll try to take out the Romanians first and then take out the Czechs. Now, Yugoslavia is non-aligned, so they can't join any alliance just yet. And same for Poland. However, Czechoslovakia is democratic, as is Romania. This means these two nations can join the Allies if world tension spikes above 60%. So let's try and take out the Democrats first. And we'll use our armor to do most of the heavy lifting. Fortunately, most of the Romanian border is plains, so it shouldn't be much of an issue. Though there is that annoying river there. And like I said, my initial plan was to cut here through Poland, cut them to ribbons, capitulate them, and then move on to the other contenders. Now, unfortunately, world tension is already fairly high, and if we keep this fight up a little bit longer, it's going to creep up to 60% once a few of these nations start piecing out. We don't want that. That will make Romania and or Czechoslovakia join the Allies as well. The world's crazy enough as it is, so I will try and take out the Romanians first. If they're not live, they can't join any factions. So we'll go for Romania and then Czechoslovakia. We do get a pretty nasty river crossing penalty, though our armor should be able to push across since they can't really pierce us, and, well, the Romanian army is not that great. It is large, though. It is large. I'll give them that. I'm making a few diversionary attacks to the side just to prevent the enemy from, you know, reinforcing that combat. We're going to be breaking any minute now. There, that's our tanks in. Now we'll try to go for as many encirclements as we possibly can. And we'll use our speed to really dunk on the Romanians. Now the infantry will be repositioning to close the gaps that form. Now they are pretty slow and they will not make it there in time for the enemy to close those. What you can do is hold down control and hit B. This will make your infantry strategically redeploy, making them arrive much quicker. Though they will arrive without organization, but that should not matter too much. With just a little breakthrough, we've already decimated the Romanian army. I mean, they're not coming back from this. Just close the pockets and keep your armor rolling. Capture victory points, rush ahead, and if you can, just bypass the Romanian army. You don't have to fight them, so why would you? The Poles might be trying some attacks, don't worry about it. The terrain is heavily to your advantage, and even if they take a tile or two, they'll never be able to do any serious damage to you before the enemies start falling, and you can swing around and knock out them as well. Well, Romania should be falling any moment now. We've taken most of their victory points. Yeah. Next tile we take is probably them gone. There we go. That's Romania out of the picture. Now, regarding Romania, very important here. If we take all of their states and the country ceases to exist, this somewhat breaks the historical path for Hungary. If there's no Romania, or no independent Romania, Hungary will simply bypass Treaty of Trianon and Horthy will never flip to gamer, which is mildly annoying because he's no longer free real estate and he can still join the Axis. Now what you can do is take all of Romania, except for like a useless tile like Dobrushta here, and just leave them independent down there. It's not a huge loss for us, it's useless real estate anyway, and done. Now to proceed, a little bit of, need to have a little think here. I could take out Poland and Czechoslovakia, though taking out Poland might risk the Czechs joining the Allies. Since they are democratic, they have that option. Don't want that. Could also just take out Yugoslavia first so I can swing everything to the north. But again, that might spike world tension too much, leading to these guys joining the Allies. Don't want that. So what I'll try instead is put some holding divisions on the Yugoslav border, just to keep them bottled up, while I finish off Czechoslovakia and Poland. I'll try to go through Poland without capitulating them and take out the Czechs. We also have a nice amount of political power, and I recommend we spend that on something useful, like Konstantin Rokossovsky, the armor genius. I got most of my boys in position, and we'll try and cheekily cut off the Czech army with a nice envelopment with the light armor. Terrain isn't optimal, but they've mostly stacked the south here. So unless they respond quickly enough, we should be able to make some nice pockets. And pockets are what Hearts of Iron is all about.
12 seconds later. And
that's one big pocket. That's most of the Czech army down there, I think. Time to head north and take what we can before the enemy responds and keep redeploying the infantry. They are going to try and weasel their way out of that. It's probably best if I clean up this pocket first. I thought that was the entire Czech army, but they do have some more things there. Let's just clean up this first. You don't want to get too cocky. That usually ends up backfiring. Ooh, that's a lot of divisions trapped there. That is going to hurt them quite significantly. Let's just clean this up and head north, and we can knock out the Czechs. Oh yeah, that must have been quite a few Czech casualties. Oh yeah, that was most of the Czech army. They've got like at most 8 divisions left, so my armor should be able to just punch their way north. Meanwhile, Yugoslavia is nicely bottled up there. No problem at all. Time to play a game of Snake and make my way to the victory points.
12 seconds later.
And there goes Czechoslovakia. We can simply take all of their states. Very well, that's done. That leaves Poland and Yugoslavia. Let's deal with the Poles first. Should be able to make a nice offensive move from the south here and hit them in the soft underbelly. I prefer to micro my tanks, but at this point you really don't have to. You're so much stronger than them. They've lost a lot of units in those pockets. You can let it run as a battle plan, but I do recommend, especially early on, micromanage your tanks to snake your way to victory points. It's a lot more efficient than just setting battle plans that go brrr. For Poland, never stood a chance. We're also halfway into 37, so I will be shifting construction towards military factories. While our stockpiles aren't as red as they used to be, we need a lot more stuff if we are going to take on Germany. And there we go, we finished Lessons of War. We are no longer affected by the Purge. This is now just a little bit of a Trotskyite plot, that's it. But the Purge is gone and we are now fully operational. Now as for focuses, I'll leave this up to you. It's not super important which you pick for the purpose of the achievement or just a single player run. It's always a good idea to go for research slots first, and things like political power is a nice bonus, or some factories. I think I'll go for the research slot here. Oh, there goes Poland, and we'll simply take all states once again. That just leaves us with Yugoslavia. The German-Soviet treaty, contrary to what you might think, since we will be fighting the Germans, you want to accept this. There's too many negatives associated with rejecting it, in my humble opinion. Now to redirect the full might of our army towards the Yugoslavs. Now world tension is getting mighty high, but if we're quick enough, the Yugoslavs shouldn't be able to join any factions. They shouldn't be able to. Now, the Yugoslav border is not the best area to invade. It's a bit annoying, it's quite narrow, and if they stack their troops well, it could take a while, but you will break through eventually. Don't worry about it too much, you will break them. Especially with your tanks. I mean, what are they can't stop this. The units are undersupplied, under-equipped, and just incompetent. And once you break through, just go for the victory points. And that's Yugoslavia dealt with. Now, for Yugoslavia, you could simply just annex them like we did with the other countries, but I really don't want to deal with the additional front line with Italy and the extra shoreline that I need to defend against naval invasions. It's just, I don't want to bother with it. So instead, I am going to Balkanize Yugoslavia. I'm just going to satellite all of its component nations. There. Now they're all my puppets, and I don't have to deal with the mess. Great, now we can prepare for our next and final opponent, the Axis. What we're going to do is put all of our troops on the front line with Germany, and our tanks can sit on the Königsberg pocket. They will collapse this pretty quickly once hostilities start, and we'll have to start recruiting some more units. So I need one to fill out this gap we have here, and another 24, so we have a full field marshal with all of his divisions. 24. So I'll be training infantry until we have a full field marshal army group filled with line infantry to just stand there and take the hits. And maybe if production allows, I will train a few more tanks. However, yes, looks like we have a good stockpile, but we will be expanding our initial tank division. These are 20 width, like I said, not optimal. Offensive tank templates should be 40 width, so I will be changing these out to 40 width tanks. Doesn't have to look pretty, it just needs to get the job done. Something like this. As long as you get 40 combat width and around 30 organization, your tanks should be fine. So these will be our units to use moving forward. So what do we do from here? Well, from here we build military factories, we produce equipment, as much equipment as we can. And what I'm going to do is send an attaché to China, because, well, I do need a lot more, well, a bit more army experience to change my templates. Now, if you manage to get enough army experience from your previous fights, this will not have to happen, but I'd rather play safe and get good divisions out there. So I will be sending an attaché to China. Now, from here, while we're producing equipment, preparing our divisions, and getting a larger army, we are going to be having an eye on Germany. Eventually, somewhere in 38, Germany will come for us, unless we're too threatening. But you'll see that if they get a war goal and don't use it. Germany will want our Sudetenland. They are quite eager to take it, and should they reach that focus and get the war goal, usually they will declare straight away. If they don't, that's because you're too threatening, and if you notice that, just justify on them and, well, take him out. You should be more than strong enough at this point. Oh, and if you see Italy justifying on one of your many Balkan puppets, don't worry about it. They don't have the balls to go through with it. They usually just start justifying on, like, Slovenia and Croatia, and then never do anything with the war goals. So I will be adding support anti-air and engineers to the basic infantry. This is costly, and we won't have enough equipment right away, but we are producing it at an alarming rate. As for our tanks, we will be adding things like support anti-air, and as army experience trickles in, we will also be getting things like the signal companies, the logistics companies, and engineer companies. Now, a few things to note regarding our tussle with Germany. While we're preparing, we might as well prepare all the way. We are trading for steel right now. Why? Well, because we are on free trade. And our trade goes through Leningrad. Now, what I'm going to do is forbid these two sea tiles to force our trade to take a different approach. We're also going to forbid the Black Sea, so the trade doesn't go there either. This forces the trade mechanics to use our port here in Vladivostok, which is fine because I'm trading with the US, so we shouldn't have any interference from Germany or Italy in the Pacific. Otherwise, Germany or Italy would just be sinking convoys left and right. Another 150 PP. I'm going to get Mikhail Kalinin. 15% stability. Very nice, because stability needs to be over 50 while at war. Well, preferably. And we have our extra research slots. Could go for the closed city network to get more research slots. Don't need them though. So I could go for finish the 5-year plan and get some factories, or socialist realism and get some PP. I'm going for the PP. That way I can work on stability some more. Oh, the Germans integrated Austria. That's fine. Just extend the front lines. There's not much interesting here in the political tab. Might pick up the captain of industry if you're planning a lot of infrastructure or some refineries. I don't know why you would. Could pick up any one of these industrial concerns. They might be interesting. But considering Germany will want our Sudetenland soon, might be time to look at the army. Now, Chief of Army, we only have XP gain and Army Drill Specialist. We somewhat purged the others. That brings us to Military High Command. There are still some options here. Either Concealment, reduce the enemy air support, which can be handy, or Army Regrouping, Division Recovery Rate. I'll pick up Division Recovery Rate first. Because of that favorable tank treaty we did with Germany, we now have access to the T-32 way ahead of time. Could have gotten this a little earlier as well. Now, medium tanks will be better to punch holes. They're a little slower, but a lot more sturdy with some more firepower. However, converting into these guys now would mean overturning our entire production queue and having to start from scratch with zero efficiency. There's no way we could ever produce enough tanks to equip our 12 tank divisions. We're even struggling to do that with regular light tanks. But it is something you could do if you wanted to, or something to do if you still want to fight the Allies after the Axis are dealt with. Seeing as we're below 80% stability, I'm going to hit worker conditions once. That should get us over 50% should we find ourselves at war. Pretty important to avoid those strikes. Papa Stalin does not like strikes. Now this isn't required, but I'm just going to make an intelligence agency. I like playing with spies, and seeing as I have enough civilian factories and don't really need that many mills built right away, I should be fine.
20 minutes later.
Opportunity arises. Hungary has renounced Trianon. Horthy has declared himself a gamer. That means we can justify on him. Now this will take 150 days, and let's look at Germany. They usually start to go for Sudetenland about now. So it's not entirely sure we can gobble up Hungary with impunity, but we should be able to take them out with a quick strike regardless, even if they join the Axis. There we go. Germany has finished its Sudetenland focus. They now have a war goal on us. Now, whether or not they use it is the question. They could be threatened by our massive army on their border, and they could decide not to invade. On the other hand, they could use that the instant I unpause now, so we'll see. If they don't do anything, I recommend you justify on them. We want to get at them as early as possible. And it doesn't look like they're doing anything, so I am going to cancel my justification on Hungary, though it pains me, and will justify on the Germans. I'm convinced the game will find a way to mess with me anyway.
12 seconds later.
Yeah, there. So they've just declared on me anyway, that's fine. I'll go back to justifying on the Hungarians. I'll eat them eventually, just to clean up the lines there. So, with a German declaration of war, we can get down to the business. Shouldn't be too difficult. First up, clean out the Königsberg pocket, and then we'll focus our entire attention on the German Reich. Once again, the infantry doesn't really do anything but stand there and maybe support a few attacks, pin some divisions. The heavy lifting will be done by our armor, and that's the Königsberg pocket cleaned up. I'd say that's a good initial strike at the Germans. Maybe redeploy, and I'll try and cut them off here. If I can cut off the area around Breslau, that should be wonderful. Look at that, von Manstein getting dunked on by Zhukov. Unfortunately, due to these being, well, light tanks, the enemy can now pierce them if they have any form of anti-air or anti-tank, which is unfortunate, but we should still be fine. I'm going to launch a few pinning attacks so the enemy cannot intercept my tanks right away. And that's Breslau encircled. The army is going to be doing a lot of redeployment here. Put the tanks on that to clean this pocket out as quickly as possible. I got cocky and they almost pulled out. Now, okay, I don't know what's happening, and don't rely on this for the purpose of the guide, but the entire German military has just pulled off the border, and I don't know where they're going. What's Germany even doing? Reichsautobahn? Ugh, they're justifying on Luxembourg. So yeah, the entire German military has redeployed to Luxembourg. And at this point, I might as well just set my entire front line to move forward and exploit this massive AI flaw. But in your case, I wouldn't rely on it. Just try and get encirclements, destroy the pockets, move on. And again, I have no idea what the AI is even doing here, but we'll accept it. Take whatever we can get, right? Where is the German army? They're not at Luxembourg because they're losing this. And Soviet armor already rolling into Berlin. Yoink. Alright, the German troops are starting to show up on the border again from their short vacation elsewhere. Still, no idea what the hell they're doing, but for the purpose of the guide, I'll try and play this a little more as if the AI knew what it was doing. So, cleaning up that pocket with the armor, and again using strategic redeployment to get my infantry in position. And after a few short months at war, we've already decimated the German army. Unsurprisingly, since they decided to, well, not actually participate much. Still, massive casualties, and their unit count's already below ours. Germany doesn't really stand the chance. We took them out early enough. Well, they decided to throw themselves at us early enough, so should be no concern, really. The AI just doesn't know how to respond to us, really. Our units are too fast, too strong. And there's just too many of them. Germany was not prepared, but they brought this on themselves. And that's another 15 divisions deleted. Oh yeah, eventually you'll get this event. It's super annoying, and in a couple of weeks, 6 random divisions from our entire military will be peeled off, given a random general, and be sent here for some stupid border skirmish that will be over by the time any of our units arrive there anyway. It's utterly pointless and annoying, but don't panic when it happens. No, justification on Hungary's done, so could eat those. Kinda busy here though, kinda busy. I guess I'll leave Germany as is for now and quickly pull off my tanks, line them up on the Hungarian border, and prepare to take them out. Shouldn't be too much difficulty. Besides, the infantry can make their small little attacks. These should help. And these meat walls aren't really designed for offensive combat, but considering how weak the enemies become, they shouldn't have too many issues. Alright, armor's in position. We'll just declare. Yes, they'll join the Axis. Doesn't matter. We'll overrun them in a matter of days, if not hours. And that's Hungary dealt with. Bulgaria is looking for an ass kicking, it seems. A bit annoyed by Bulgaria not actually joining. Could wipe them out fairly easily, but at least they have the common sense not to join any fights. So I'll just justify on them, clean them up. I'll use the infantry to mop up in Germany for now. Shouldn't have too much left. If 2%. So if we can take Vienna, that's it. Mass human wave offensive. Typical Soviet style. Yes, it's costly. No, I don't care. I really don't. Got enough stockpiled. Oh, thank God. Good. That's good. Border's a giant mess though, but let's keep going. I have absolutely no intentions of fighting my way through the Alps though. Oh boy. Okay, I'm gonna try and sneak my fleet over to the Adriatic. Alright, time to clean up Bulgaria, get rid of that mess. Surely Bulgaria, you could have seen this coming. And now I'm going to launch a quick and dirty naval invasion of Italy, hopefully sweeping them away quickly. Oh, that's assuming I can get naval superiority though. Just gotta force the Italian Navy back to port. Well, it cost us a heavy cruiser, but we managed to force the Italian Navy back to its ports, and our naval invasion is off. Alright, we've landed, now just aggressively rush north. The armor should be able to do this virtually unopposed now. And that concludes the Great Patriotic War. The USSR stands triumphant, united forever in friendship and labor. All we have to do is, first off, puppet the Germans. Great. And while we're here, might as well puppet the Italians. And we'll conquer the Bulgarians for their impudence. Same with the Hungarians. And that concludes the peace deal. And with that, a red curtain descends over Europe. The glorious Communist International is dominant on the continent. Plus, we've got a nice achievement out of this, the Revolution Triumphant. So if you want to continue this run, it's only 1940, and you're in an excellent position for either world conquest or just, well, messing with the Allies. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. I hadn't played the USSR since, like, I think 2017, so it's been quite a while since I looked back at this nation, and I have to say, they are incredibly powerful. Even though they have a disappointing focus tree, it's just such a fun, powerful country to play. You'd always feel in control. Now, if you liked the video, leave a like, consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this one, and hit me up in the comments with your suggestions for achievements or your questions if things are unclear. I try to read most of the comments. If you didn't like it, hit that dislike button, tell me what I did wrong. I'm always looking to improve. And once again, a massive shout out to my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys for helping make these videos a reality. Now, this has been me, Bittersteel. Peace.